your foreign sisters. I'm Licky.
And I'm Kitty, and today we're gonna talk about alcohol because in April, and April is the awareness of alcohol month, and the awareness of the dangers of excessive drinking. And interesting fact, it was founded in 1987 to promote more dry weekends and like people drinking less. Yes, so this is what we're talking about today. And I'll let Licky take the floor now because she has prepared some crazy data for us.
Yeah, I spent some time on Google to learn about everything, and since both of us have grown up in Latvia, I thought it would be fun to like compare the both countries, so the UK and Latvia, because we can talk about our experience growing up there and then moving here and how it differs and what our experiences are like. But let's start with the UK since we're here. So basically in the UK it's recommended to not drink more than 14 units a week, spread evenly over 3 or more days. So that is quite interesting. But also the units, to me, an average person, I don't know what it is, like what unit of alcohol, but it's quite helpful because, for example, if you've ever drunk beer or something, usually says like 1.4 units or something, so at least we can keep track that way, because to me, I don't know what units mean.
Yeah, no one really fully explains, right?
It's not clear.
Yeah, is it like a shot? In my mind, it's like a shot worth of like a liquor,
yes.
hard liquor, I imagine. Yeah.
So around 1 in 5 people in the UK report to not drinking alcohol at all. So it's 23% in England, where Kitty lives at the moment, and 17% in Wales, where I live at the moment, don't drink alcohol, which I thought is interesting because Wales is the like more people drink than not in England, if that makes sense. So I thought that's an interesting fact. And then across the 4 nations in the UK, adults who regularly drink over the recommendations and the guidelines, in England it's 20%, and 27% of men and 15% of women who say that they drink excessively, and in Wales it's only 15%. So although they drink, more people drink, they don't drink excessively, pretty much, which I thought is also interesting. And then we're gonna move into kids, and like these statistics were a bit crazy to me. So 37% of pupils aged 11 to 16 have reported to have had at least one alcoholic drink in their lives so far. And then the older they get, the obviously bigger the number gets. So when they're 11, it's only 15% of them who are like, oh, I've had alcohol in my life. And by the time they're 15, it's already 62. So more than half of them have had alcohol. And 5% of kids say that they drink alcohol at least once a week. And to me, that is like crazy.
Yeah. Wow.
Like, I can't believe that fact. And all of this data is about 2023, so 3 years ago. So now it could be even more. But yeah, that just sounded a bit crazy to me. And yeah. And then in Wales, it is a bit more different. There's a lot of facts here. So girls and boys aged 11, so 14% of girls and 20% of boys have drunk alcohol, which is like already a fifth of young boys who have had alcohol before even like starting puberty, really, which is crazy. And then 76% of girls and 68% of boys aged 15 have had alcohol, which is pretty much like 3/4, right? That's a lot of kids. And then 1% of girls and boys aged 11 have been drunk at least twice.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, that's just, I can't wrap my head around it. But I also understand that I come, we didn't get drunk as kids. I think we started drinking when we were 18. Like, we obviously tried it here and there, but we didn't drink.
Yeah, we never got drunk.
No.
Like we maybe had, sometimes with Christmas or something, like there would be like an alcohol drink.
And that's
but,
with family. It wasn't like a party. I think the first time we together drank alcohol was when we were we had just turned 18, so I was 18 already for 6 months, and I threw a Halloween party, and then my mates got drunk, and I remember being like, oh my god, I don't know if I want to ever do this again. But yeah, so I feel like maybe we're different, and could be, but it's just in our friend group, and we just never used alcohol at that young age. Didn't even think about it when I was 11.
Yeah, it wasn't something to aspire to do, I don't think. Maybe around the age of 14, 15, that's when, people were having house parties or some sort of parties. It sounded like I'm not even sure if alcohol was part of it, but I think it was more that there was a higher chance that there was alcohol in it. Mm-hmm. And maybe then it was for me it was more about the parties than wanting to maybe be in parties rather than just drinking. So yeah, interesting, very interesting. But I would say we might be the odd ones out, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. It could be that we're just weird and different. But yeah. And on a bit sadder note, in 2023 there were 10,473 deaths, which is 15.9 per 100,000 people, from alcohol-specific causes registered in the UK, which was the highest number on record, which is very sad. And 7,922 out of them were due to alcohol liver disease, making it up to 75.6% of deaths of alcohol-specific deaths. And these numbers, they're quite huge, but yeah, it just shows that people are drunk driving and abusing alcohol, really, and it's sad, which is why we're talking about it today.
Yes.
And then in Latvia, this data is about 2019. That was the latest one I could find. So 35.6% of pupils aged 15 to 16 admitted to drinking more than the recommended 5 alcohol units in one drinking session in the last 30 days. So in Latvia, the guidelines are a bit different. They're saying 5 alcohol units, and 1 unit in Latvia is 10 milliliters of pure alcohol. I think that's how it was on the website, at least. But yeah, so the percentage is a lot smaller than in the UK, which maybe we're not the odd ones out then.
Yeah. Well, at least amongst the teenagers, I guess.
Yes. And then only 32% of pupils aged 15 to 16 admitted to have been drunk at least once. So 31% of all boys and 34% of girls, which is again a bit lower. Actually, not really. So it's 35% in the UK for girls and 26% for boys in the UK.
So it's like a
so
similar.
It's roughly the same,
slightly,
but
yeah,
we're slightly more on boys, but it's pretty much the same, at least in the older, as you get older. Then I found, I missed a step. So in the year of 2019, there were 606 deaths in Latvia caused by alcohol use. And although that number is obviously smaller than in the UK, you have to remember that in 2019 there were only 1.92 million people in Latvia. So we're smaller than London. We're
Yeah.
smaller than Wales,
Considerably.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the number, yeah, it's still quite a lot of people percentage-wise. And on average, 78.4 of those who died were men and 19.6% were women. It was a bit harder, yeah, but it was a bit harder to find information about alcohol in Latvia. I had to go through like all of these PDF files and like people's study materials and whatever. So it's not as widespread in the media, and there aren't that many great websites where they talk about important issues like this. And then I found a very interesting PDF file where they did an experiment and a poll and everything, and they came to a conclusion that on average a man who regularly drinks alcohol in Latvia is aged 25 to 35 with a higher education, lives in a city and is considered wealthy, and his choice of beverage is strong alcoholic beverage such as vodka, whiskey, whatnot. But for a woman, she is aged 45 to 54, which is older than a man, with a again higher education, lives in a city, as in again is considered wealthy, but her drink of choice is wine.
I wonder where did this come from? If I'm honest, like it's very specifically like described, because I mean, Raul regularly drinks alcohol, okay, but I do think there are a lot more like alcoholics that are.
I think this is about people
poor.
who don't abuse it.
Okay.
Because then, on average, a person who drinks alcohol over the recommended average, so excessively, is a male aged 45 to 54 with a not completed high school education who smokes regularly and overdrinks on average 10 days a year. Average for men was 15 days and 4 for women. So,
it doesn't sound that much if I'm honest. But
no.
But that's like over drinks, and I think over drinking is like completely gone.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah. Which I thought is quite an interesting fact, that because it correlates like the education, your wealth, your status, and everything, which means those. See, we don't know which way it goes. Maybe because you do drink, you don't have a good education, you can't get a good job. Or maybe because you can't get a good job, it forces you to numb your pain with alcohol. We don't really know which way it has gone.
Yeah, I mean, we would assume both, like it works both ways, right?
Yeah.
Well, I did like it, interestingly, how the previous facts that you were saying, how someone who drinks regularly, the male age is 25 to 34 and the female is 45 to 54. I wonder if it's because women are usually mothers around 25 and they're probably a bit more careful when they're mothers, and then like for some reason when the kids have grown up the drinking increases or something.
Yeah, it could be.
Very interesting.
But yeah, I want to do like a wider spread like poll and like survey and like gather all the facts, because I am really curious about everything now. And then I tried gathering some averages about everything. So again, I've taken the year 2019. So in Latvia, we're the 4th most alcohol drinkers, because on average a person annually drinks 13.1 liters of alcohol. Pure alcohol. So that means like when we talk like beer and ciders, it's even more than obviously that amount. And in the UK, it's the 22nd most country, and they only drink 10.8 liters of pure alcohol per person annually, which is still quite a lot. But it shows that like that 2-liter difference is like almost 20 spots. And then again, we have to think it's like pure alcohol, it's like 2 vodka bottles,
Mm.
maybe even more, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It is crazy.
And it makes the difference. As we chatted before, it's the fact that in Latvia we would assume, and we've seen that, you know, people are more likely to drink the heavy alcohol, like the actual like pure liqueur, rather than just beers and ciders. I mean that too, but I think it's like a higher chance that they're into
It's
the
actually
heavy.
about the same. I've seen a graph.
Yeah.
I can include it somewhere, but it said that beer and spirit drinks are pretty much the same, like higher up, and then the wine and everything else is at the bottom. So maybe beer is like every day. I come home from work, I'll crack one open, and then the spirits are for like celebrations and maybe Friday night. I'm not quite sure, but we could do a survey and find out.
Yeah, it's very interesting. There's definitely a lot of research to be done in that area, especially
Yes.
in Latvia, I think.
Yes.
But even
yes.
in the UK, probably there's a lot more. But you can already see how much more data there is on the UK than Latvia.
There was so much, yes. And then I found also an interesting. So the WHO was the source, so World Health Organization for this, the last bit, and they are predicting that for 2030, Latvia is gonna go up to the third place with 14.3 liters of pure alcohol per person annually, and that the UK is gonna drop down to 27 most with 10.5 liters of pure alcohol per person annually. And I am very curious about how they predict this data.
Yeah, what do they base it on?
It could be that the UK we drink less.
I mean,
and Latvia just goes up. I don't know how the tendencies work there. But yeah, that's food for thought. And I also wanted to check the alcohol prices because I thought that's also very important. And
how accessible it is as well, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So if the world average alcohol beverage price index is 100, then in the years 2017 to 2021, Latvia averaged at 106.74, which means pretty much like almost middle, a bit higher than an average in the whole world. Yeah. And in the UK, it was 121.43, which is a bit more than average, which means alcohol in the UK is more expensive. And then just to double check that, I pulled open Tesco's and I typed in Corona, and I found out that Corona Extra Lager, that's 620 milliliters, costs £2.80 or £4.52 per litre, which is €5.19. And in Barbora in Latvia, that's a shop, one bottle of Corona Extra that was 355 milliliters costs €1.29 or €3.63 per litre, which is £3.16. So it's like a pound and 30 pence difference. It's more expensive in the UK. And I wanted also to talk about spiking, but I could not find any data about Latvia at all. There were like a few articles where people were like talking about being spiked, but it was 2 of them, and there was no information, no statistics, nothing. It just said that it's illegal, and that's it. But what I learned about the UK, and this information is from Drink Aware, which is, I think it's amazing that you actually have a website for that. So roughly 90% of cases actually do not get reported at all. And in a poll that they did in 2022, 10% of women and 5% of men said that they have been spiked in the past, and that the average age of the victims was 26 years, which I found a bit surprising because I thought it would have been lower. Yeah. And then 74% of the victims were women, and 80% of the spiking incidents happen in public places, so 41% in bars and 28% in nightclubs. And spiking obviously is like powders and or whatever substances they add to your drinks, which is called drink spiking, or there's also needle spiking where they drug you.
Inject you. Oh, geez.
Yeah. So those are the facts that I found quite interesting, and yeah, they just make me rethink life a bit.
Yeah, and you know what? The average age of victims. I wonder if it is because, well, the majority of spiking is never reported, but also maybe by the time we're like in like mid-20s, we are more likely to actually report it, right?
Yes,
Kind of.
could
I wonder
be,
if
yes.
that's kind of affecting it. Crazy. No, this is crazy. Well, these are the facts about alcohol in the UK and Latvia, but I guess we can also speak a bit from our own experience, the drinking culture from our views, or what we've seen here in the UK and in Latvia. I was thinking, I mean, I can start if you don't mind, I guess.
Yeah, that's fine.
Before coming to the UK, I was really convinced that, well, Latvia and Latvians are quite the alcoholics, like heavy drinkers. But then I came to the UK and I realized that it seems like, you know what, people here are probably a lot more, there are probably a lot more alcoholics here, but they are more functional than the ones in Latvia. And how more widespread the drinking is here than in Latvia. And it feels like it is actually part of the culture, because back home, from what I remember and like growing up and everything, the drinking usually happened in the house, you know, like house party kind of way. And here it's more like everyone's going to the pubs and drinking outside and like drinking with dinners and everything. So that was a bit of a, I guess, surprise and observation from my side that I want to mention.
I will actually maybe disagree with you on that, because I wouldn't call the British people alcoholics necessarily. Although yes, they do drink like a pint with their dinners here and there. I feel like, as you said, they drink culturally, so they will drink in companies, like of others, like friends will gather and things like that. Whereas in Latvia, I feel like it was like such a shameful thing that people did by themselves in home. Like, yes, you'd have a glass or two whenever you were celebrating something. Maybe it's like my upbringing. But for me, like my parents, sometimes they were having a bad day and they'd open the bottle and start drinking. Whereas here, I haven't heard of people doing that. So I feel like in Latvia, it's more like personal.
Individual. Yeah, I mean, I can agree with that as well. But at the same time, it was like, from my experience, there was still like some sort of a group. It wasn't, you know, like you wouldn't see just the one person drinking. Well, you would probably see on occasion, but like the whole like getting drunk, it would still be in some sort of a friend group, just not outside the house, I guess. Yeah, that's interesting. But what I do see here, which I didn't notice back home while growing up, that people here are more likely to have a drink exactly almost like every night, whereas at home it was usually like 1 or 2 drinking sessions per month, around the time when, you know, you get paid, and then you just get wasted that one time. Here it seems like it's like spread out, and then there are a few like going out sessions, but yeah. It's like, just from my kind of like perspective, how I've seen things happening. Yeah. Alcohol.
I feel like I'm finding it very hard to comment on this, is because I didn't experience like the uni life in Latvia. You know, so I don't know how the nightlife is there, what the students do there. And here I came, I was 20, and the first thing I saw was socials every night. Kids, like us students, getting drunk, like drinking alcohol every night, and yeah, and apparently that's universal and that's okay, and people just do that, and it only lasts 3 years, and then afterwards nobody drinks that much anyway. So I feel like maybe it's just like the universal university experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not quite sure if that's the same in Latvia or if it was different, because obviously I never experienced university life there. And I'm very curious. Like, I would kind of want to go back and maybe experience it just so I could compare. But again, I'm older now, and I just don't see the appeal in that. I just think back to being 20 and going out and, not having money and being cold all the time and wearing dresses and makeup, and then the next day you have to wake up early and go to uni, and then after that to work, and then you have to do it all over again. It's just, why did we do that to ourselves?
Yeah. Excellent question. I mean, thinking back, in my mind it was like, what, to have fun, to be part of a group, I guess. Was there anything else we could have done? Probably. No idea. Yeah, drinking culture in uni. I mean, it was definitely, again, I think that was part of my like culture shock, was how often people were going out and drinking and partying. But that is a university setting, so it is different. We can't really, I kind of know how it is, I didn't know how it was for an average person. It's definitely heavy, I think. Back in my day in university, it seemed like drinking is a big part of the university experience. I don't think, I mean, maybe it was me and my friends, because I was just in that kind of a friend group that did go out partying and drinking. Yeah, it felt like everyone was doing it. Like there's, you just couldn't, I don't know. Very interesting. Don't think there's much, I mean, similar to Ligi, like obviously I didn't study in Latvia, so I don't know how it was there. But if we think back, I think like the way the studying is set up in Latvia is also a bit different. Like the hours you actually go to lectures is different to here in the UK as well, so it might have some impact on it. But yeah. Do we want to tap into the growing up with alcoholics in the family a bit more, or?
I mean, we can. It's just, I don't really know what to say.
Yeah.
Because to me, I thought it was a normal experience to have until much later, and even like now recently, in like my personal therapy, I've just found out some things that, not really found out, but when you like reflect and look at it with adult eyes, you go, wow, that's not okay, that wasn't okay, and why was it happening, sort of thing. And it could be to do with the fact that people just do not know or didn't know how better to deal with it. Like with the pain and the feelings and stress and anxiety.
Life
I feel
difficulties. Yeah.
Nobody spoke about anything, although I don't really.
When they got drunk.
Yeah. Oh Lord. But yeah, it's different. And as a kid, you don't really understand that it's kind of wrong. You just see that adults are drinking their adult drinks, and sometimes they'll give you some to taste, and you'll try it and you'll be like, that is rancid. How are you enjoying it? And
why are you drinking this disgusting thing?
Yeah, and then their behavior is gonna change, and they're gonna slur their words and sometimes get very aggressive, and it's just, for a child growing up in an environment like that. It was quite scary
And
because you didn't know what was gonna
unstable.
happen.
Yeah.
Yes. You kind of had to feel like an adult because it felt like you have to take care of them in case something goes wrong, but then you're just a child and you should be asleep and you should feel safe, and that didn't happen, obviously. And then there's shouting, and then there's financial troubles because alcohol isn't that cheap, although it is. You can get nasty cheap stuff. It still costs money.
Especially when you're already living, well, how are they saying? Hand to hand? No, what is the saying?
Paycheck
Basically,
to paycheck.
Yeah, paycheck to check. Yeah, paycheck. Yeah, I can only, I guess I can comment on the moments where it's like it's a school night and you were supposed to sleep and people were, drinking in the house and increasingly becoming louder, and then it either goes into like an aggressive version where there are a lot of arguments, screaming, potentially fighting, or it turns into like a crying party and everything's super sad, and or it's all going through these different stages. It's the fun part, then it's the sad part, and then it's aggressive part, and then it's the sad part again. Like what the adults drinking in the house are going through. I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember that it was very frequent in my house, if I'm honest. But then again, that's what I'm saying. It was around the time when people were getting paid, and it'll be like a weekend thing. Although, from what I can say, when I was growing up, when I was very little, like my dad was clearly an alcoholic. He even went through the 12-step program, and then he wasn't drinking for years. So it actually was maybe not as bad as it could have been, thankfully. Because he wasn't drinking any alcohol after this program until later in life. I don't know, when we were teenagers. There was my mom and dad split up for a few months, and I think that's when he kind of started drinking again, which was concerning. And that's all stemming from the way they were raised and growing up. Because my dad or my granddad, he was a heavy alcoholic while he was growing up, and only in his later years my granddad stopped drinking. And I don't even know if he actually went through the program himself or not. Like, I don't really know the story properly. I just know that my granddad, as far as I remember, he wasn't drinking anymore. Until again, in the recent years, not even sure. I feel like even while my dad was alive, I remember my dad and mom mentioning that my granddad is potentially drinking sometimes again. But after my dad passed away, he was definitely drinking again. Yeah. So interesting. But what I wanted to say, because it didn't seem like it wasn't it wasn't every night they were drinking. It was like occasional times. But I remember times when it was we were going. I think one of my dad's cousins were getting married, and we were supposed to join my grandparents to go there. It was like a trip away. It was a couple hours away. And the day when the granddad came to pick us up, my dad was already wasted. So my mom and dad stayed back, and the grandparents only took us to the wedding, like me and my sister. I guess like there were occasions like that. That sometimes like, oh yeah, like these things were happening. Or I think the disruptive nights where there's some shouting and even sometimes even fighting. Actually, you could hear like some fighting happening, and scary.
Yeah,
Definitely
I think
scary.
for me it was different, because although my stepdad did use alcohol, I feel like my biggest issue was with my mum, because she did it quite, as you say, like I can't remember it being that big of an issue when I was younger. I think then it was maybe just when we got paid and maybe over the celebrations, like Christmas or birthdays or whatever,
Yeah.
which is like, oh,
Yeah.
it gives you an excuse. But the older I got, the more I noticed that it became like every Friday, every Saturday, or like every I've had a bad day, or every I'm off tomorrow day. And then it's not even that. It would be you wake up with a hangover. The first thing you do is you have more alcohol to cure your hangover, or you wake up and you have a
Yes.
stomach bug and you have vodka with black pepper cracked in it because it's meant to help. And it's just like all of these different cures for everything was alcohol, I feel like. And that's when I started thinking, being like, well, this surely ain't normal, right? Because how can that be healthy? How are you helping yourself that way? But if you ever mentioned it, you'd be told off and you'd be like, how can you accuse me of such a thing? Obviously, I don't have an issue and things like that. But I remember there was this one summer solstice we had. And it was quite traumatizing because I think I was 15, maybe 16. So I wasn't that young, but also not old enough to drink myself. Plus, the experience of seeing everybody drink, I didn't want to. And my grandparents didn't actually drink that much. My grandpa would occasionally have a glass, but like they, to my knowledge, never had an issue with any of those substances apart my grandpa was a smoker. But yeah, so I remember this one summer solstice. My brother was home and some of his friends came as well. So I already felt like it wasn't like easy or comfortable for me because the house, our little flat, was like filled with like these grown adult men. And although like I knew my brother is cool and like his friends are cool, it was still like, oh, I don't know you, like plus we're drinking, I don't know how you're gonna act when you're drunk, kind of thing. And we went over to the castle to like celebrate the night, and I just remember everything kicked off and like my mum was so drunk, and then she was running home like in the middle of the streets, and it's what 5 kilometers to get back home, like walking wise from where we lived, and nobody else cared. And I had to, as a child, run after her and be like, please come out of the street. And she'd be like, why? I want to die anyways. You know, I just remember being in that situation and thinking like, why are you putting me through this? And to her it was funny. And I know, yeah, she was drunk, so she didn't think clearly, but then again, I was a child, you're my mother, it shouldn't be like that. There were so many instances again later in life where that issue became a bit more frequent for my liking, and we'd have these arguments about things, and I'd mention things to her, and I remember I wasn't dealing with any of my life well at all, and I didn't feel like I could talk to anybody because obviously in my family nobody talks to anybody unless they're very, very drunk, and then you don't want to hear all of the little details about, because it's different than talking when you're sober. It's a completely different experience.
Plus they won't remember.
Yeah.
They won't remember what they've said, like what they've shared before or what they talked about, and like it's like almost it never happened. And quite often the drinking sessions, the stories would repeat.
Yes.
They would repeat the same thing.
Yeah, so you would already know everything that they were going to say, but you can't leave because they want to tell you this thing that you've never heard before, and it's just awful. But yeah, I remember it was just before I moved out, so I was like 18, and I hated alcohol. I just never wanted to drink, never wanted to smoke in my life, and I was self-harming at the time because I was, as I said, I was really in a bad place. And I remember we had this argument, and she brought it up because she saw my scars, and I was like, I'm really unhappy, could we like please not talk about this right now, like I'm really struggling, can we talk when you're sober? And she just looked at me, looked at my scars, and she said, didn't expect any better from you. And I remember that really shook me. And I just left. I left and went to a friend's house because I was like, well, I can't be in this house. And we had like a project to do anyway. So I was like, great, gives me something to like focus on and everything. And obviously I couldn't talk to anybody about what I had been through because I'm telling other people, hey, my mom has an issue. And that's embarrassing. Plus she'll get...
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can put your family in more danger or whatever, like even though maybe should have, you know.
yeah. And then they might not want to talk to you because you embarrassed them, which I'm technically doing now on the internet, so...
Yeah.
But you know, it's just I'm just talking about my experiences with it.
Yeah.
And it's my life too. It's not like it didn't have an impact at all on me, and it did, and it made a massive one. But yeah, and I remember then 6 months later bringing up this conversation. She was like, well, obviously I was drinking, I don't remember it, you can't hold it against me. I'm sorry, I hate that excuse. Like, you being drunk isn't an excuse, because it's your choices that led you there, and then your actions whilst you were drunk, that again were your actions. Like, if you have an issue, don't drink, find help, admit that you have an issue. And some people just don't want to because they think they're fine.
Yeah, they're fine, but they need the alcohol to numb whatever they're feeling or not feeling or thinking. So
yes.
But then again, we come back to the thing: you can't help someone if they don't realize they need the help. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's some heavy stuff, if I'm honest. I guess I can be grateful for the fact that my dad did go through that 12 step program, and for a long time he wasn't like he wasn't drinking, but then again, like, there was drinking happening around us. Like, his friends were still drinking, like there was, you know, there were still these occasions happening, I guess. So that's very interesting if I think about it, if I'm honest. Also, it must have been very difficult for him not to drink when everyone else was drinking. God, yeah, the stuff that was coming out when people were drinking, when the adults were drinking. Initially, when I was, I mean, even back to this day, I look back and I quite frequently I enjoyed being around adults when they were talking, and quite often I guess maybe it included drinking, because then they were talking about all these experiences and different stories that like I haven't heard before about, and I was always like quite intrigued in people's like lives already back then. I don't know.
Yeah, it felt like they were treating you as an adult only because they were drunk, because usually you can't sit at the adult's table, and you know, you can't, at least how I was brought up, I couldn't even like speak to them unless I was spoken to. And yeah, that was quite different and interesting experience, I suppose. So just for them to get drunk, for us to feel included, that is quite sad actually, as children.
It is, and it's actually even back then, like I knew that alcohol is not good, you know. I felt like that kind of built my view around alcohol and like different addictions. That's like something I really am not looking forward on doing, and like being in that pattern and falling into this addiction. That's like from the very early on. Maybe that's another reason why we didn't drink early, like early in teenage years, because, you know, well, from my perspective at least, like I was never keen on alcohol. Like that kind of like put me like, yeah, this is not something, I don't want to be doing that. Like this doesn't seem right. And it's not just alcohol, like my parents were smoking as well. So it's because it's quite interestingly, because the environment kind of builds you and sets you up. For me, like the alcohol and smoking actually put me off these things, which is good for me, thankfully. But you know, not everyone gets to that state, because if you grow up seeing these things as normal, you think it's normal, so it's just like a natural thing what you're gonna do, right? So
yeah, for me as well, it started, as I said, I grew up and I was like, I don't want to become them. I don't want to abuse alcohol. I don't want to smoke because it's disgusting. And then uni happened, and it was very be drunk to be social because everybody else was doing it. But it wasn't like I felt peer pressured. I liked feeling that buzz, but it was very hard to understand where my line was, and I crossed it way too many times because I didn't know my limits. And you know, now it's that I'm an actual adult. It's so much different because I won't drink if I don't want to, and I can just have one side and be like, yeah, I'm done now. Like, I'm feeling that tingle that I wanted. Or, you know, I never now drink to get drunk, which I feel was the goal in uni.
In uni, yeah, it was like to get to that really buzzy, like fun place, so you can last through the club till like early morning or something. Yeah. I mean, but even then, like, thankfully, I think there weren't that many occasions for me personally where I was like really bad, where I wasn't in control, at least, thankfully. Like, I never let that happen to myself. I mean, there was like one or two occasions where I kind of blacked out on different parts of the night. But like, it was never, you know, because you hear stories where people are like, oh yeah, I blacked out there and then I woke up in some bushes somewhere, and I was like, what the hell? Thank God. Like, it never got to that for me.
Yeah, I always made it home.
Yeah,
and I knew where home is. And then if I made a mess, it was always at home because I was like, I'm safe now. I can like help myself however I need to.
Oh yeah, like just the whole next day throwing up from the or like I never had to go to a hospital, you know, because you drunk so much that I have to rinse your stomach and stuff.
Yeah, that is like, horrible.
That seems crazy. Or like throwing up on the street and everything. That's just so I would agree. Like, it was, even though like there is this drinking culture and like I participated in it while being in university, it wasn't ever really about trying to cope with things that could, I guess, create this addictive cycle, even though I guess I did. I mean, I wasn't I mean, because my dad died early on in my university time, it wasn't that I was using going out and drinking as a way to process it, but it just kind of naturally happened that eventually at a certain drunken point I would be emotional about everything and crying a lot. So, and that was kind of one way I think my body was trying to process grief back then. Yeah. But it wasn't intentional. It wasn't like I wasn't drinking to get to that point.
Yeah.
So yeah.
How is your relationship with alcohol nowadays?
I think it's a healthy relationship, I want to say. I mean, ideally there would be no relationship with alcohol. Nowadays I'm not drinking most of the time at all, and in the past few years I've even not drunk on occasions where I could have drunk, or where there were like free drinks being given out. Like, I would not really give into that as much, because in the recent years I was getting more into, you know, being healthier and like more aware of everything, what I want to do, like what's good for me and what isn't. So I was just like listening a lot about the scientific impacts of different things, especially alcohol, and the truth is there is no beneficial amount of alcohol that you can drink. Like, 0 is the beneficial amount of alcohol you can drink in your life, because like it affects you. Even if you drink a little bit, it leaves some sort of effects, and it's a massive depressant, and it's just not good for your brain and your sleep and like overall health. So that kind of has put me on a path where I just don't drink as much. I do have an occasional drink, but like if you think about, compared to uni times where I was going out once or twice a week, the last time I got drunk in the past year was like 6 months ago, if not longer. and that, like, even that drunk was not like really really badly. I just had, you know, a few drinks that I usually don't, so it's like much easier for me to get drunk. And I just try to, if I can. I mean, it's not like anyone's pressuring me to drink, but you know, sometimes you go out to a pub with friends, or like I was going on dates sometimes to bars, and they would be like, okay, I could have a drink here, and then sometimes I would have a drink, but sometimes I would have a non-alcoholic drink instead. So um, I'm in a, I think I'm in a relatively healthy position at the moment. Like, I am in control. I'm trying to limit it as much as possible, if I'm honest. Like, I'm trying to see, like, okay, is this worth it? um, like, I could consider drinking some if we were out and partying. For me, even like from the early on, even in university times, for me, if I was getting drunk or drinking, I always associated it with, okay, so we need to go out and dance.
Yes, yes.
So like, for me, it's always been a bit weird if I just sit in one place and just drink for, like, you know, just for the sake of it. Like, if there is a dancing and clubbing part, then yes, it kind of makes sense. But even now, if I'm honest, I mean, it can be tricky, but I've been out clubbing also sober, so it's possible. It's not that bad. But the question is, like, do you want to be in that place, I guess. So I would say I'm relatively good. It's not like I'm not drinking at all, but I'm definitely not drinking as much as I used to. I want to say since 2023, I did like a dry January thing back then, and since then I've been a lot more cautious. And I think over that year I like really started limiting. Started with like drinking lower alcohol things on the occasions when I was out and about and drinking, to just like actually just drinking lemonade instead. Yeah, so that's where I am at. Yeah, what about you?
I feel like my relationship with alcohol, although I wouldn't say is unhealthy. For example, if we're out celebrating and there's drinks involved and I'm drinking, I still don't know where my line is. And although I feel like I get too drunk and embarrassed and whatever, and it may end up with me coming home and then being sick. And although my friends or like people there say, oh, don't worry, you were fine, like didn't seem like you were that drunk at all, I know that, you know, I crossed the line. And although it didn't happen often, maybe like once a year, I still feel like that's once a year too much, if that makes any sense. Because ideally I would like to know, oh, I can have 3 drinks and I'm at that nice place and I can stop. But it could be that I just have a very addictive personality because of my parents, and I can't stop. But yeah, and one of the last instances that happened was end of November, which is like 4 or 5 months ago. We were out with like work people, and like everything was fine, and then I walked out of the pub and I like fell. To be fair, I was wearing heels and I never wear heels, so I'm kind of blaming it on that. But then I realized, I was like, damn it, I again got too drunk, you know, because I felt like in that moment I was like, definitely no more drinks. But then we got to the next pub and people were buying drinks and they bought me drinks, and I didn't know how to say no thank you, because I really struggle with that. And yeah, obviously I had them, and then I had to go home because I was like, I feel very unwell, I really need my bed. And yeah, and then after that, although I did have a few ciders here and there for health benefit reasons, I've decided that this year is going to be the year that I become slightly more healthy. So I quit smoking and I quit drinking. So technically I did cheat. I think I've had like 2 pints this year. But it's definitely much, like, it's just 2 pints that I've had on a night out with friends. But yeah, I'm not drinking at the moment. And if I am out in like social experiments, no, what's the word that I'm looking for? if I'm out socially
Socializing.
with people, I suppose, and they're drinking, I am trying to either just drink water or like diet cokes or coke zeros, or I've found out that some places do non-alcoholic ciders, and then I'll have one
Yeah.
of them,
Yeah.
and they're quite nice. But one thing I've noticed now is that alcohol really helps with my social anxiety. So now, because I don't have that, it just feels
You're more
weird to me.
aware.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's only been like what 4 months that I've been like fully like sober. That it does feel a bit like I'm still trying to navigate that, and I don't go socially out that often. That I am finding it very difficult to be not overthink it.
To be
Because if
like,
I'm
yeah, to
drinking,
have an easy time around people.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah. I know what
yes.
you mean.
So,
Yeah.
but I'll get there. I know I'll get there, and I feel. I don't know if I feel better for it. I just know that mentally I'm not like scared, and plus I'm not wasting so much money either. And I know that, you know, since I know that there is a history of of abuse, substance abuse in my bloodstream, like in my family, I really don't want to be one of them, and I don't want to risk it. So I'd rather start working and taking the small steps towards it now, and maybe I'll have like a pint here or there and maybe a glass of champagne, but I think I want to stick to being sober, because I'm okay with cokes and Fantas and Sprites, because that's what I'm drinking instead, and it's, you know, it's fine.
Yeah, and you can still have, I mean, besides having maybe a bit more awkward times with people, but like you can still have so much fun.
Yes.
Like you really can. That's, I think that's, I kind of proved it to myself back then, back in the dry January that I did in 2023. Like there were some work events, and usually after work events, there people would be going out drinking and partying. Um, and I was like, well, I'll go out anyways. I'm just not gonna drink, and I still had a good time, you know. And it was actually so. I mean, it's so funny to see people so drunk. I don't know. Sometimes it's like crazy how people are like, why, or like the fact that you're like in a super loud club or bar, and everyone's just trying to shout over each other, and it's like, wow, this is not an optimal place to be and chat, but it's funny that people choose to be here, you know.
Yeah.
While drinking. Um, yeah, and I think that like within that year, thankfully, I kind of like my partner back then. He was working in a pub, and like he and his friends would frequently go and sit in a pub and just drink and talk and stuff. And like I would still join them, and it was actually initially it was tough. Even with the alcohol, it was tough for me to be in such a big group. I always felt like awkward, and I'm like very quiet and I never say anything, but you know, it is just the group effect sometimes on me, you know. You just kind of work through it and accept the fact, you know, you don't have to be, I guess, the center of attention to be part of the group, um kind of thing. Yeah, it's definitely, it's been a process. um and what I wanted to agree with the fact that, yeah, because I know that basically addiction is in my blood, that I need to be careful. Like I need to be careful with these things, because it's probably a slippery slope for me. And it's just like I need to be aware if I don't want to end up being in a bad place. Yes. Oh, this was interesting, sharing stories and experiences with alcohol. I hope it gives some sort of a thought for people, you know, like see how they use alcohol maybe, and why they use alcohol.
Yeah, because I think we do need to be more open about it, and
Yeah.
about the effects and the causes and why are we drinking, and the peer pressure, and you know, because we've said this in the past, but if there's something bugging you, or you need to get something off the chest, just message us. I know we're strangers, but sometimes that's better because you would be talking to strangers in a pub anyways, right? So
Yeah. Exactly.
let's make a cuppa and just talk, and we're happy to listen and maybe give some advice if we have any, if you want any. But yeah, it's just, I feel like it's important to find healthy coping mechanisms that actually help and improve your life, and talk about the hard stuff, not just numb the pain and pretend it doesn't exist, although it does, and it makes things worse.
Yeah, and I guess seek help, even if you think your problems aren't as big as other people's problems, like they're still your problems and there's still things you need to deal with, so it's worth seeking help. It's worth trying and fixing things. Like it's not normal to be struggling all the time, okay? Like and it's better to deal with it in better long-term ways than like a short-term fix. That's why I mean, like alcohol is a weird one because it's just so like it's so widely spread, it's so social, like it's everywhere.
It's even in religion. I was thinking about it. When you go to church, they often give you wine, don't they?
Yeah.
So it's just it's crazy to me.
And then all the celebrations is about alcohol. New Year's is champagne. I don't know. Christmas is freaking, what is it, eggnog?
Yeah.
And like all the festivities are usually also somehow around alcohol. And it seems and it shows like in the moment that it can be more fun. But it would be more meaningful if you could have more fun without alcohol.
Yes.
Like without abusing it, and like and everyone has their own balance. Obviously, it's like you don't have to be off alcohol fully because it is, I guess, part of life. But I do recommend doing your own research on just like, I guess, being more interested in your own health. And even though you think alcohol doesn't really do besides giving you a hangover, it has massive effect on you. Even this one night out, like the next day you're feeling horrible, but like it takes a long time for your body to recover, and it's just it's very interesting. It's worth looking into it, and I recommend how I learned about the fact that there basically is no healthy amount of alcohol is through podcasts with Andrew Huberman, so I recommend him. He's like very scientific. He has very scientific podcast, but also relatively easy to digest and understand. So
it's worth paying attention to your body, and even if you just start by noticing why you're drinking, what you're drinking, how much you're drinking, even just like paying that little more attention to it will hopefully open your eyes to something, and maybe it's going to be easier to fix whatever the underlying issue is. And although we're not saying that alcohol is pure evil, it's also nothing that does nothing good, really. Just causes arguments and health issues and sometimes deaths.
Or turns you into a person you don't want to be. Even as simple as that sometimes. So we'll leave some information in the description and some links that we found that could be useful. And I hope this was I hope you gained something from listening to this podcast. I think it was a really interesting discussion, and for me, realizing how much heavier growing up with alcoholics it was for you, Liggy, actually, than I imagined, I guess. It sucks.
Yeah, but back then we thought it's normal, right?
Yeah.
We couldn't talk about it.
Of course, even as friends, we never really, we didn't share these things.
No.
So this is us doing it now, which is good for us. We're in a good place already.
Yes. And if you have any stories or anything you want to share with us, please leave them in the comments. Please message us. We would really love to hear from you.
Yeah.
And thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching and listening, and see you next time.
Bye.
Okay, bye.